Good evening. I'm Susan Goldberg, President and CEO of GBH. Thank you for joining us for tonight's The State of Race, Are Women of Color on the Rise? Here in Massachusetts, women are in the top roles of our government. They're in corner offices, boardrooms, and owners of businesses. I'm gratified to join this momentum as the first female president of GBH. But as we all know, there's still a long way to go, especially for women of color, from earning a living wage to breaking into certain industries and finally getting a seat at the table. Tonight, you'll hear insights from accomplished women leaders on what we can do to level the playing field for all women across the Commonwealth. Thanks again for joining us.
Good evening. I'm Paris Alston, co-host of GBH's Morning Edition. Welcome to The State of Race, a series of forums examining the state of racial equity in Massachusetts. Tonight, GBH World, the Boston NAACP branch, and the Boston Globe partner on Are Women of Color on the Rise? Live from the GBH studio here at the Boston Public Library, in the New Sea Cafe, and virtually on GBH's YouTube channel. Please send us your questions and comments either on cards here at the library if you're in our live audience, or from home using the Q&A option on your devices. Well, March is Women's History Month, and we've learned that women are trailing behind their white male counterparts. For women of color, it seems they're not even in the same contest. Despite strides in some business, academia, and political circles, the harsh truth is that there's much more work to be done to address the disparity of women of color in pay equity and leadership. We have two panels tonight to discuss this. Later, the next generation of women leaders talk about the future, while my first panel will unpack the continuing disparities seen in our tape here.
At 51%, women have become the majority in Massachusetts and are making historic political gains with top offices held by women. Unfortunately, greater numbers, especially women of color, are not reflected in the corner offices of academia, biotech, and business. More bad news, women are still being paid less. According to a recent Pew Research study, the pay gap in the United States has changed very little in the last 2 decades. Here in the Bay State, despite some of the strongest equal pay laws in the country, women of color are still trailing behind their white male counterparts. For example, when white men earn $1, Asian women earn on average 81 cents, Native American women just 59 cents, 57 cents for Black women, and 51 cents for Latinas.
All of the diversity is concentrated at the bottom. In order for that to shift, there has to be an organizational investment.
Dr. Georgiana Melendez, Assistant Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at UMass Boston, is seeing a shift, but at a snail's pace.
In Massachusetts in particular, we have a wage equity law, but that hasn't yielded a lot of shift in the leadership.
And that's clear in areas like academia. Of sitting presidents, women in leadership have increased 7% since 2018. While there is some diversity, none of these women identify as Indigenous or Latina.
There has to be an intentional mindset about it. You got to be able to move people up in that space and have people who sponsor women of color, not just hire them.
Lisa Cook, executive director of the Clubhouse Network, agrees.
There is a lack of the informal mentoring that's happening with leaders and educators of color to help ascend to those leadership roles.
According to 2019 data, the Women's Power Gap reported that only 1 out of 25 CEOs in Massachusetts are women. And of those women, not a single woman of color. In fact, women of color trail in the highest paid executive and leadership categories as well.
When it comes to implementation or executing at the functional levels of leadership, that's where we're missing out on the opportunities to really diversify our hiring, diversify our leadership training, diversify those social constructs of building relationships with the C-suite.
Women who have achieved board chair positions are up 22% since 2019. However, in 2022, women of color saw an increase of only 2% of those seats. Dr. Melendez says there's much more work to be done.
The idea that you have a seat at the table is great, but do you have a voice?
Meanwhile, girls are still not taken seriously when it comes to math and science. Cook wants to see a seismic shift, particularly when it comes to young women of color in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math.
When you look at the global data, we know that women are working, which means girls have to be trained in order to be prepared to enter the workforce.
So with all of that said, nonetheless, there is a lot to discuss here, and I have a absolutely stellar panel of guests here to do that. First of all is Dr. Shakina Williams, who is Executive Director of the Frank and Eileen Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership at Babson College. Also with us is Tracy Whitfield, Executive Director of the Coalition for an Equitable Economy, as well as City Councilor for the City of Springfield, Massachusetts. Hey, Springfield in the building. Also with us is Dr. Maisha Minter-Jordan, who is President and CEO of CareQuest Institute for Oral Health. And last but not least, Aneta Roman, CEO and co-founder of Amplify Latinx. Ladies, thank you so much, all of you, for being here with us. So I want to start by asking this question of whether there is a tale of two cities occurring in Massachusetts right now, because as we heard from GBH's CEO Susan Goldberg, we're at a time when women are in leadership positions all across the state, right? Not only in boardrooms, at educational institutions, but we have a woman governor, we have a black woman attorney general, we have a black congresswoman, and the list goes on, a woman of color mayor here in the city of Boston. But at the same time, we are still seeing this pay equity gap. So what's going on there? And Aneta, I'll start with you and your perspective.
Well, thank you so much, Paris. I think there's a certain level of awareness, which is excellent, because we have the pay equity days, and so we see the spectrum where we have the women at 70 cents, but then as the chart demonstrates, there's a huge disparity within the same group of women. So, at the end of the day, women get trained, women learn a lot of new skills. So I think we should be looking at employers and seeing the hiring practices, the practices where you are looking to promote employees, and part of that structural issue is resolved by policy, right? Mm-hmm. Policy solutions. So at Amplify, we focus on policy solutions, and we know of a certain piece of legislation that is at the State House right now that is led by a coalition called Wage Equity Now, where the proposed legislation means to request employers to share, to be more transparent with their data, and not just with the amount of salaries, but also breaking it down with gender and race. Mm-hmm. So then that way we have more accurate data. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we look at opportunities like that, I think we can definitely close the gaps, right? Mm-hmm. But I think we need more awareness and more commitment from everybody around us, and I think government and the private sector can have a hand in that.
Mm-hmm. And we should mention that this is on top of the 2018 pay equity law, mm-hmm. and right. that exists in Massachusetts, that allows employees to ask each other about salary data. This takes that a step further.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this goes a little beyond that, because that we've seen, as Dr. Melendez said, that after that law, even though it's been very well intentioned, it hasn't really moved the needle for women, because what has happened is that instead of asking you how much you make, they ask you how much you expect to make, and usually that is informed by your previous role, right? And a sister piece of legislation to the one I just mentioned is one where employers are required to also post ranges for salaries, because then there's more transparency and there's more opportunity for women to achieve more equity when it comes to payments and salaries and all that.
Gotcha. And I should mention that you were at the State House this week, putting your money where your mouth is, right? Advocating for those bills, along with a number of other policy advocates and lawmakers. And just to give people a picture of how stark this difference is, we just passed Equal Pay Day 2 days ago on March 14th. This is the day when we acknowledge how long it's taken for other groups, for groups of women of color, to catch up to what white men are making on the dollar. And currently, looking at the Massachusetts pay gap by race, for every dollar that white men make, Asian women make 81 cents, Native American women make 59 cents, Black women make 57 cents, and Latinas make 51 cents. And those numbers, those are numbers that haven't changed a whole lot over the recent decade, to be frank. And there are numbers that have changed. I mean, we know that there are more women going to college. We're seeing more women in different industries, et cetera. But Dr. Williams, tell us a little bit about what's happening when we transition from higher education and that training to when those women actually get into the workforce.
Yeah, that's a great question. What we're seeing is that women that are going through college and going into their next career, particularly from Babson, have better negotiation skills. We have more mentorship available, and they're tapping into their network as well. But we're also seeing that even post-graduation, they're starting their own businesses. They're trying to fill in that gap to get to that $100. So what we're seeing the stats are saying that women are the fastest growing group as far as entrepreneurs, particularly minorities, and Black women are the largest demographic group starting businesses. This for that very reason, is because we're not making the same as white males, and majority of the time that we're trying to make ends meet, but we are sick and tired of being overlooked, underpaid, and we want to really have our creative juices in our own businesses and resources.
And Councilor Whitfield, as someone who is, on the local level, implementing certain policies and advocating for these laws and governance, right, that makes these things a little bit better for women, what's your perspective?
Thank you for the question. My perspective is that there has to be transparency, and we have an equal pay law, but we need to use that as a tool to hold organizations accountable. We could do audits on these different organizations, which if an organization is committed to closing that pay gap, then they should be committed to doing an audit and being transparent about the information that is provided. I also think that we have our legislative body. I did watch a video where Governor Healy, when she was Attorney General, say that this new equity law is great and we are at the forefront of the law, yet we're not using it in the appropriate manner that we should. And so I think that the legislative body can do a lot more in the enforcement area, and it has to be done.
So we have a viewer question, and Dr. Mentor-Jordan, I want to pose this to you.
Sure.
It's from Clara in Roslindale, who wants to know, what strategies can women implement to continue to get the respect that they need in the workplace? And I also want to invite you, as you answer that question, to share any of your personal experiences related to that as well.
Sure. So I appreciate the question, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation. First and foremost, when you asked about the Tale of Two Cities, what I see this as just the beginning, right? So our governor just came into office, our lieutenant governor, our AG, and these are the people that we expect to make these laws take the action that they are intended to take. And so I would be excited, I am excited about these women coming into these leadership roles. And as women, I think it's important for us to take on roles within our companies. As a CEO, this is something that I'm very much focused on, is pay equity within my company, but also as a board member, my goal is to sit on the Nom and Gov board, to sit on the compensation board, and to ask the questions of the leadership within that company as to how we are evaluating our pay to ensure that it's equitable. And again, doing that in my own company. So I think that there's opportunities for us as women to make sure that we're putting ourselves in these spaces and places where we can really push for change and ask the right questions and ask for the data. And then as a quick personal story, when I was graduating residency, I was told by one of the secretaries, you're not getting paid as much as your male colleague, when they offered me a job at my hospital. one of the first things I did was ask for the data, and I asked for what was the framework that made that decision and that I would be paid less. And part of what I needed to do was educate myself on what was important to the hospital, what was the revenue generation that they expected from my role versus his role. So I think as women, we can also be informed as to what are the levers that we need to understand that determine pay. Because often it is that there's inequity at its core, but there's also other factors that we need to make sure we're aware of that go into determining compensation. Is it that I need to take on a specific role? What's important to the company? How does it generate revenue? And how do I contribute to that revenue generation? So I think that there's all sorts of things that we can do, first by being informed, making sure we take on these positions that allow us to inform compensation practices, and then making sure that we're bringing other women along with us.
I love that last, all of those points were great, and especially that last one, because I want to talk about that with all of you. But first, I mean, I will share, coming into the workforce, when I first came out of college, the idea, I was telling Anita this when we had her on Morning Edition this morning, the idea of negotiating salary and talking to other people about salary was extremely foreign to me, because, I had parents who worked hard and they encouraged me to do the same, but those were not even conversations that they had, right? And so I'm curious from each of you, and again, feel free to share any of your personal experiences here, how does that also hold women back when we are not even having this socialized conversation about advocating for yourself? And I'll start with you, Anita.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point, Paris, because we're socialized to be good, to be quiet, to be nice, to be pleasant. And so part of that advocacy, self-advocacy, is not in that equation, right? So there's obviously the salary negotiation workshops are really helpful, and I know the City of Boston did that. We partnered with them in the past to host these workshops because it's really important that we know our worth, right? And there's a difference between saying, and I mentioned this to you maybe informally during the interview, that as women, we think of what is fair, not what we're worth, right? And that's a difference, because we're worth the same that anybody else, because we cannot be paid half of the dollars for the same work, right?
And how does one calculate their worth? I mean, what do they do to figure that out?
So, I think it goes back to what you were saying, right? Like being informed, understanding what's out there, knowing the data. There's a lot of data out there. There's organizations like the EOS Foundation that sponsor the Women's Power Gap research, reading the research, understanding, and talking to people. I think there's so much power in information, right? Because you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And also money is a taboo subject. Growing up, nobody, money is like that topic that you don't share much about, but we've learned to understand with the awareness of the gaps and the millions of dollars that women lose throughout the lifespan of their career, that we need to be talking about this, and we need to make noise, and we need to create more awareness and recruit allies, because there's a lot of people that get it and want to do the right thing. So making sure that we talk to people across sectors and believe in the leadership that wants to do the right thing and wants to support equality, right, and fairness and value to the worth of women and the workforce.
And if I could answer,
absolutely.
I think for me, I've never been the quiet type, so I don't know if that's the woman norm.
That's why you became a city councilor, right?
That's never been me. But for me, I think it's just like understanding your skill sets. Like, I didn't wake up and say, "Ooh, I got these skill sets to be a city councilor or an executive director." But over the time, I knew that I grew certain skill sets. And the difference between men and women, they could have 3 of the qualities on a post, right, on a job post, and they will still go for it. And we're like, "Oh, we don't have this, we don't have that." And so that happened to me in this executive director role. I was like, "Well, I don't know, I don't have this, I don't have that." And I said, "I'm going to go for it anyway, because anything that I don't have, I have been able to learn. I have been able to build my portfolio, build my skill sets just by doing." And so I encourage all women out there, get in there and do it. Get you a good mentor. get you a good mentor that you can practice with, good role models that you can practice with. But our worth is not determined by any study. Our worth is determined by us and what we can do. And we have to be confident in what we can do and get out there and do it. So I just wanted to add my personal story. And then one more thing, if you don't mind.
Of course, go ahead. Like you said, you guys been wanting to be quiet now.
I'm not wanting to be quiet.
As you should.
All right. So working as a city councilor, we do have some privileges, and our data salaries are public, right? And so I look at the salary data and I'm like, hey, what's going on here in Springfield? Like, the top earners are white males, right? And so I have a meeting with the mayor's office and I'm like, we have to do something about this wage gap. Why are all the white males the highest paid employees for the city of Springfield? And so I go in there and they're laughing and they're joking. And then there's a personnel review committee. And they are the ones who determine the salary that each new individual is going to get and some of the hiring decisions, and they're all white males. And I was like, well, here we go. So, you know, you're going to choose the next candidates and what they are paid, and there's a lot of like disparity, and not just for women, right? Even with black men, they call me all the time, like, I know what this last employee was paid. I've been here longer. I have the same education, yet they want to pay me like 20% less. And so it takes legislative bodies to get out there and fight on the local, state and federal level. We have to fight for equity and equality, especially in pay. And so I just wanted to let you guys know those
that's
couple
the
of
committee
stories.
to get on, right? That's the committee to make sure that there's a woman or a woman of color or a person of color on that committee.
That's right.
Because since that's the room that's making the decisions.
That's right.
That's right.
I think understanding where those decisions are made so that you can influence them is so critical. And that's something that I don't take lightly as when I have that opportunity.
That's right.
And I always tell young people too, is with knowing your worth, doing your research, but also saving up. You should be confident, not arrogant, but really confident in yourself that you can say, okay, I don't need this job. I can walk away because you're well networked, you can get another employment or have your own business. So never be beholden into an employer if they're not giving you what you want. If you're going to spend majority of your waking time at a job, you should enjoy it, but also get paid. But I really stress the importance of living between your means and try to be debt free and live a great life. But just really manage your finances.
And if I may add something to Tracy's point earlier, I love mentoring. I love, that concept is very powerful, but also champions are different than mentors, right? Like the champion is the person that will talk to you about you when you're not in the room.
I call them sponsors, but exactly.
Who will lift you up, right?
Yes.
And so not just focus on recruiting mentors, but also somebody who will champion you, somebody who will want to lift you up, because we always at organization, we're like, you're a person on the rise, you're a person on the go, bring a person on the rise. Because it's always about the next generation. It's always about lifting up and making sure that we lift as we climb, because, and that person that will acknowledge somebody who deserves to be in that space and in the room.
Exactly.
And speaking of lifting as we climb, we have a viewer question. Lisa from Lincoln is asking if there's one professional industry that is rising ahead of the others, be it in policy and government, the nonprofit sector, healthcare, media, et cetera, that is doing this really well, or one that has some room for improvement, right? Dr. Williams, do you have any insight on that?
Well, from academia, I'm definitely seeing a big shift as far as people of color getting into senior roles, and also in the classroom. But we can still, especially in Massachusetts, do a big job as far as recruiting and also instilling the opportunities in academia, supporting people that want to go into higher education with our student loans, for an example, but then also encouraging what the student body looks like, reflecting that in their staff and faculty. And I could say at Babson, we've done a tremendous job. I'm a Babson alum, and looking back at when I was there many, many years ago to present, we have a great representation of people of color across campus, but also in our offices, we have a new department for minority suppliers. And I'm just really proud of Babson for that, because what we're preaching out to other entrepreneurs and businesses to do, we're really modeling that within our institution. So I'm really happy about that. I'm really proud to be back as well.
I would say also, as you've already stated, in the nonprofit space as well as in healthcare, we're seeing many more leaders of color, particularly in Massachusetts. There was a Health Equity Compact that was formed by leaders of color, of which I'm a part and a very proud member. So there are opportunities within those spaces, but we're not seeing it as much as is in the for-profit space. But in the nonprofit space, many more women of color, many more leaders that are doing the work and are looking at the data and really trying to drive change and lifting others up and putting them in positions of color. I'm very proud at the CareQuest Institute for Oral Health. The majority of my team are women, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to make sure that they are then lifting up women within their departments as we do the work together. But that's where we're seeing the most, I think, advancements, but still much more to do.
So we have a question from someone who's here in the audience at the Boston Public Library. I don't know exactly who it is, but shout out to you for asking a question, being the first person. And they're wondering whether there is a list or any other online resources, I would add, that people can go to learn how to do salary negotiations. And I'm going to add in here too, similar to what you were saying earlier, Councilor Whitfield, some people may have a fear of retaliation, right? And also what you were saying, Dr. Williams, some people may be afraid to ask because they don't know, well, they may not have another job to go to, right? So how would you orient them, and I'll start with you, Counselor, and how to find those resources and give themselves the armor they need?
So we are in the technology age and everything can be Googled. And so I would start with just like doing my research and Googling, but also like we need to use our tools that we have on the Massachusetts state level, like the Treasurer's Office has great negotiation skills. I watched a panel discussion with the Massachusetts Women's Commission, and the Treasurer was on there, Deb Goldberg. Shout out to Deb. And she was saying that they have tools and techniques right on their website that folks can go to learn how to do salary negotiations. So I think that would be a great start. But for me, I Google everything because I don't just want to know how they negotiate in Massachusetts. I want to know how they do it across the nation and across the world, and I build my skill sets from many different places. And so I just encourage people to even ask, right? So I think that was a great question, audience member. So shout out to you. We should never be afraid to ask anybody any question because that's the way that you learn the true knowledge and the skills that you need to move forward. And we can all move forward in any career path that we want.
Yes. And I was going to add too, just, I have people in my life, speaking of sort of mentors and co-sponsors, it's not just people who are in roles above you, but it's your peers too, right? It's people who are in similar roles in different cities, different states, and different industries, and who are well-versed. And sometimes, for me, it's not just women or women of color, it's men. It's men of different identities who have been through these before and can sort of tell me how to do it, right? Even when I'm not quite sure of it myself, but did one of you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that very thing of building a kitchen cabinet, and that kitchen cabinet should be women, should also be men, because you need that perspective of men, as you pointed out earlier, that they can sometimes be more fearless than we are, and can sometimes just go in and say, this is what I want, and we need to understand how that's happening, and then also adapt from that style to what feels most comfortable for us. But when you have that kitchen cabinet, and you're building that and building your skill set and practicing negotiation in that context, it strengthens you when you get ready to walk in that door.
Absolutely, yes. I call it my personal board of directors.
There you go.
Exactly, there you go. For Anita Roman Incorporated, right?
Exactly. And it's people, like you said, men, women, white, black, Latino, everything, right? Different age spans, because I want to learn. I want to learn. I mean, I don't want to be an island on my own, right? And going to resources, so the workshops that we used to host were in partnership with the city, but also with AAUW. So if you visit their website, they have a lot of good resources as well. And I would also add that there's great books out there that are specific to women. And so if you can't find it on Google, go and get a good, nice book on Amazon or anywhere, your local library, bookstore, because there's a lot of excellent resources that, we can read and learn and practice, and you can go back to our, to our kitchen cabinet or our board and make it work.
Yeah. And even on the college campus as well, the career services should really be able to help you. And also role play as well, like with your peers, to make sure that you're hitting all those key points.
Oh, there's we're running out of time, believe it or not. There's so many great nuggets here and so many more things we could discuss. I think we have maybe 30 seconds, Dr. Williams, just for you to drop a nugget for what you hope will change with this next generation of women coming up, which is a nugget to our next panel.
Well, I would like to drop, as far as for the next generation of women, I would say they should not have the same issue have currently, but they have a stronger force behind them. We have so much technology, other resources that they can build together, but I think in order for anyone to win, we have to work together. White, Black, Latina, we have to join together as forces and don't take no for the answer. Just continue pressing forward.
Well, I want to thank each and every one of you so much for your insight, and I'm sure the conversation will not stop here. And as I mentioned, our next panel is changing the rules when it comes to success. They are making their own way and having no apologies about it. And more women today are not asking for permission to be included, but demanding it. So stay tuned.
I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman, and I'm equally proud of that.
Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, the first Black major party candidate to run for president of the United States, once stated, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." Who knew her words would come to light in a new generation of women of color in business, academia, and politics?
I feel so happy hearing something like that.
Dr. Georgiana Melendez, Assistant Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at UMass Boston, sees this shift as an opportunity to change how young women of color are mentored.
It can't just be other women of color. It has to be everyone in an organization. If you're a white male, you have to be an ally.
For decades, the number of women of color graduating from at least 4 years of college has grown, meaning more women of color are becoming competitive in various fields. But it doesn't stop there. According to the Harvard Business Review, women of color are more likely to start a business than white men and women.
In the research that I've done and talking to women of color, they have often said, I have exercised my voice and not seen results, or I have not been allowed to exercise my voice, or I've exercised my voice and I've experienced retaliation. And so what's happening is that they're moving into entrepreneurial roles, right? So let me start my own business because I have the power, knowledge, and ability to do all of these things. Why am I going to be stuck in a space where I can't grow? And so if you look at the numbers of entrepreneurs, it's different.
And this, Dr. Melendez says, is a good thing.
We have several generations now pushing, and now this one's saying, I don't need you to invite me. I'm bringing myself here, is very encouraging. And it's up to us to also bring them along.
Meaning women of color are not only bringing their own folding chairs, but creating their own tables.
So joining me for this wonderful panel about the next generation is Danielle Johnson, founder and CEO of Spark FM Online, Rosa Rodriguez-Williams, Executive Director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Northeastern University, Maria Adamo, Marketing Director at NAI Glickman, Cavago, and Jacobs, and Tiana Woodard, reporter at the Boston Globe. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, give yourselves a round of applause. Oh my goodness, the energy. So Danielle, I'm going to start with you because I understand that you have quite the journey in wanting to get into radio broadcasting, having a history of this, a legacy of this in your family, but then seeing that doors were closing on you left and right. And so then you just decided, well, you know what, I don't need these doors, I don't need these tables, I'm gonna start my own. Yeah, tell us about that.
Absolutely. I started out wanting to be a nurse, and then I realized that that wasn't my ministry very early on. And I switched to communications, and after I graduated from college, there was a love for radio, there was a love for entertainment and broadcasting. So I applied everywhere. I was working at community radio stations, pirated radio stations, all while still trying to achieve this major platform of radio. In Boston, it's a little tough. So I had to make not a swift decision, but a decision after many years of seeing what I want not being available. So if I wanted it to get done, then I could just do it myself. That would be a little bit harder, but I would be able to mold it into exactly what I envisioned it to be and open up that opportunity to other people who wanted to do that as well. So it was risky. It's still risky, but we're trucking along pretty well. Pretty well, if I do say so myself.
And Rosa, tell me a little bit about what that looks like more and more for people as we're seeing this changing landscape of more diverse people coming into different areas and wanting to forge their own path.
Yeah, I think in general, right, women of color, people of color are just starting to sort of find their voice. I always say that, our mothers, our aunties, our guardians, right, they are battle scarred so that we are battle ready, right? And so because of that, we are seeing different voices. We're seeing women taking up space. We're seeing women finding their own paths. And I think that is also, as the voices rise in general for marginalized communities, for people of color, we're seeing that change in landscape, right?
And Maria, looking at your experience and how things have been for you up until this point and how things you're hoping to look going forward, what are some of the things that you wish would have been in place to make your journey easier and the things that you're hoping to do for the next generation coming up so that they have them?
Well, I think growing up, we had a very different mindset in terms of what was available to us or how we were supposed to conduct ourselves in order to get what we wanted. And I think the baseline was always, let's just make it here. You don't have to be here where all the men are. And this is the level of success. And now I think, times are changing, and we have all the tools available to us, and we should be able to grab those tools and really excel everything that we're doing in order to break that ceiling again and again and again. And that ceiling should be getting higher for everyone, and there should be glass everywhere.
Shattering all over the place, right? But not hitting anybody or anything like that. So Tiana, I know that you're fairly new to Boston.
I'm
Is it 2
so
years?
new.
So
yeah,
new.
It'll be
Welcome,
2 years.
Welcome, girl.
Thank you.
Everybody, welcome Tiana to Boston.
Thank you so much.
And you're coming from Austin, right? From Texas.
Yeah, I'm a Southerner.
Me too. I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, girl.
So
Okay,
so I know it's like you're even further south than I am.
Right.
So it's a bit of a culture shock.
Ooh, so much.
And it is, yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, but even more so, I mean, in this role where you're covering Boston's Black neighborhoods, a really dynamic population, a dynamic and growing and changing, and we're learning more and more about these communities. But we're still in the city, right, that has a really deep history of racism and of racial inequity.
Right.
And so how are you navigating learning about those communities, and who are the people who are sort of mentoring you about how to tell those stories, but also how to exist as a Black woman here yourself?
Yeah, no, so I think it was also hard for me, not just because I know that notoriously Boston, they say that it's hard to be a transplant in Boston, but also being a Black transplant in Boston. And also, this is my first job. Like, I went straight from college to here. So there's like a lot of, whether it's like imposter syndrome, just acclimating to not having my mom's like cooked meals at home or having my dog with me. But I think at least for me starting here, because it'll be 2 years in June, I think it was really important for me to lean on like the other like Black women, other women of color at the Globe, for me to lean on them and for them to kind of take me by the hand and really like welcome me into these communities. Like, I know that when I was first working at the Globe, the first woman I worked with or I met was Megan Irons, who
Shout out to Megan
I know,
Irons,
she's
yes.
not there anymore. I miss her so much, but as soon as I got here, she was like, not only like, here are the people you should talk to for your stories, but like, here's where to get your hair done. Here's where to get your nails done. Here's how you can not just like be a good journalist, but also like be comfortable as a Black woman in this new space in Boston. So being able to like lean on women like her, like Janae Osterholt, who's also a trans Black, but has been here much longer than me. Those people, I think if I like did not like latch onto those people or have them like guiding me and just having more wisdom being in the journalism industry, I don't really know if I would have survived here.
Yeah.
So that was like, I think really crucial for me, not only just jumping in as like, this is my first job, but also just being a Black woman and knowing there's not a lot of us surviving or staying in this industry and being able to thrive and do what I want to do here.
Yeah, and shout out to Janae. I call her my big sister in journalism.
She's
done
my
the
work
same
auntie.
for me. Yes, exactly. And it makes a difference, right? Having those people in place, and it won't be your mom's home cooking, but if we haven't gotten you to Slade's or Daryl's yet,
yeah, I have.
Okay, all right. Well, we will help you eat your way through the city of Boston. Absolutely. So we have a viewer question here. Jennifer from Brookline is asking, how can women of color pass the double glass barriers faced in areas of business? And Maria, I'm going to start by turning that question to you, since you mentioned glass.
I know, now I'm the girl with the glass. I think what the first panelist kind of reiterated over and over was to really find your mentors and find those people that you can speak to and really learn from them. And I think that transcends even just your industry or your career. I think you should find mentors in every aspect of life, really, to be a well-rounded human being who can start to learn to speak for themselves in every facet of your life. I always try to find someone in any industry to really learn from, because I don't know, tomorrow I might need an HR person to talk about some things, or I might need a real estate agent the next day. So really looking for those people and finding those people who can be the voices for you and for your community.
Wonderful. We have a question from another audience member here at the Boston Public Library who is asking whether there are apps people can use to find mentors. And I'm going to start sort of by introducing a personal anecdote here, because Danielle and I have communicated on Twitter before she came here today, because we have a mutual friend, shout out to Marquise Neal, yes. Right? And who I have heard about you through Marquise for almost a couple years now. And so I was like so delighted to know that you were going to be on this panel. But also it's you, it's other people that I have I'm sure if it wasn't today that I would find all the three of the other of you all via Twitter and just start, following you. I know Katrina Kincaid over at CBS Boston it's been the same thing where we link on Twitter, I send a DM, something like that, and start to foster those relationships. But talk to me a little bit about what is the power, I guess, of just being able to be connected in that way via social media and saying, hey, I'm just going to reach out and talk to this person?
I actually did a panel today for E for All, Roxbury, and we
you've been busy today.
Oh, yes. I've been all over the place. But one of the things that we talked about in there was the power of building relationships, even if it's not a mentor-mentee relationship, just kind of reaching out, sending a DM, hi, I am Danielle. I've heard about you. I've seen you. We have a mutual friend. A lot of those times, that old cliche is your net worth is worth your network, or your network is your net worth. I tell people all the time that you just kind of have to build these relationships, speaking to people, meeting with them, following up, and maybe it's not so direct and so professional, but maybe it's just engagement, letting people know that you see them, that you're in the same business, that you are going to end up bumping into each other when you do. Those people end up literally putting your names in rooms that you're not in. And that's one of the biggest barriers to entry with being an entrepreneur, is that you get to really kind of use your network to make these other connections other places. Most of the really great things that I have been a part of or been invited to have just been from somebody else saying, hey, I met this girl, she started a radio station, you should speak to her. And a lot of times, that's really just what you need, is just a quick, soft intro to let people know, this is what I do, around, and from there start building those relationships.
Yeah. If I may jump in, I think that's absolutely right. I think in terms of just really thinking and creating your own opportunities is super important. I think the art of networking is dying a little bit, and that we have to sort of resurrect that a bit. But I think in sort of my career and thinking about how I've sort of developed and grown, creating my own opportunities was very important. You can be in a room, which has actually happened to me. You can be in a room with a male boss, and you sort of have a thought or an idea, and it's not really heard. But somebody repeats it, a male repeats it, and then it's sort of heard and really listened. And so you sort of play this professional game where you really want to be seen. And so you're trying to prove yourself. But when you create your own opportunities, right, you are searching for new skills, knowledge, development. You're searching for like-minded people that will help you sort of grow in sort of that interest area or that area of your career that you want to grow in. So it's really sort of creating space for you to make your path so that you're not sort of, walking around like a puppet within an organization trying to prove yourself to people that may never see you. It feels inauthentic. It sort of leaves you empty.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we're certainly living in an age where authenticity is really important to people, right? Like showing up to work as their whole self, apologetic about who they are, and setting boundaries at work, right? And like don't slack me after this time, right? Or don't do this, or I'm taking my vacation, and don't talk to me, etc. Right? And Tiana, I'm wondering from you, as someone who's just starting out in your career, what are some of the things that you have implemented for yourself? To forge your own path, even though you may not be an entrepreneur, but you are, running yourself as running yourself as a business. I'm not trying to be toxic about that, right? but seriously, I know I said Anita Roman Incorporated earlier, but right, what does it look like to be the CEO of Tiana Woodard Incorporated?
Yeah, I think at least for me, like what I've been really grateful to have access to in our generation, I think y'all kind of spoken to this, is like the power of social media. And I think especially in journalism, it really, or everywhere, is kind of like about who you know and what you know. But I've seen a lot of people who may not want to be in like legacy white media or follow those like traditional standards and kind of create their own spaces or really amplify themselves through that. And I think another thing that I've really tried to be is like being, I guess, the CEO of Tiana Woodard. And I kind of faced like pushback on this, or at least like I think that this is something the older generations are still acclimating to, is like the work-life balance thing of, I love being a journalist, but there are other parts of me, like I love crocheting, I love my dog, I love sleeping. Like journalism isn't my 100% thing. And I think that when I've tried to stick to those like hours that I'm paid for, and have really also like invested in things that also make me happy in other ways, that just like makes my work better. It makes me a better journalist, and it makes me feel like that I can show up every day as my 100% self. And I mean, I think for everyone, especially for women of color, it's hard for us to have work-life balances. We're always expected to kind of do twice or 3 times or 4 times more for just the same like meager scraps. But I'm hoping to try and do that a little bit more, maybe making my bosses a little bit more, hopefully so they can do it too. So sometimes I'm like, for my editors, I'm like, I feel like you haven't taken a break, or maybe you should go take a nap too, or something like that.
Managing up, right? That's a thing, and it's something that we can all benefit from. And Maria, I'm interested to hear your take on that as well, because just as Tiana is saying, we are expected to manage so much, not only in terms of what our job responsibilities are, but also our responsibilities to our families, to society, and all of these expectations that are placed on us to be able to do all of these things so well at once. But how do you manage that?
Right. Well, I right now I have a family. I have 3 young kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So life is very busy. It's also very loud.
Yes.
So I've taken on a new job just a couple months ago, but that came up because that's a huge part of my life right now. That's, the most important part of my life, and my career is very, very important to me, but not at the sacrifice of what's important to me overall. So the conversation was had of, negotiations back and forth about flexibility, day about what that means in the workplace, what that means in terms of output. And, you know, there was kind of a stalemate in terms of, I want a flexible work week. I need a hybrid work week. And, you know, with the pandemic having just happened, we know that we can do it. Mm-hmm. We all were flexible. We all figured it out. And, you know, honestly, I was very good at it. So kind of, you know, setting my foot down and saying, this is what I'm worth. I know I am worth it, and you are not going to get any less because you need to be flexible for what I can offer. And ultimately, they understood that, and they were great about it. And now it's working out swimmingly. But, you know, it's just having that conversation. And I think a lot of times women, and particularly women of color, kind of shrink when it comes to those conversations. And at some point, you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and say, this is what I am worth. If you do not believe that, then I can move ahead.
That's so true.
And how does that factor in, Rosa, when we think about how women can support each other in the workplace, right? Because does that conversation change when you're having it with a woman leader in your company?
Perhaps.
maybe not.
I think you know, this sense of bringing your whole self to work, and you know, the ability of folks of color to code switch, and it depends who the woman in front of you is. As a woman leader, as a Latina woman leader in my institution, I make myself very available, and I set the playing field that it can be relatable, that it can be a conversation where you're not going to be judged. You're not going to think that there are no opportunities for you, that I can't sort of offer you. There will always be a moment where I'm thinking about, how can I serve you? And so those are the people that you want to find. And you have to be strategic and intentional about the people that you connect with, and then going out and really following up and sitting with them, because they'll make time for you, because they have been where you are, and they have had the struggles that you have had. And so they want to offer you, they want to be able to serve you on your journey forward.
So we have a viewer question. Morel from Moreno Valley, California. Ooh, we are hitting the West Coast, people. Is asking, what advice do you have for a woman who's just starting to climb the proverbial corporate ladder? And I'm going to pose this question to you, Danielle, obviously because you did take your own path. But I guess just tell us a little bit about when you were encountering things that were showing you that you had to go your own way. What do you wish would have been different, or what someone would have said to you in those moments to help?
I feel like I wish that I had someone to kind of talk to and to bounce ideas off of. The people that I ended up bouncing ideas off to were men in the business, because that is also what the problem is. There's not enough women in media. There's not enough black women in media. And then when it comes to radio, there's not enough black women in media and radio. So for me, especially being here in Boston, it was really hard because a lot of the black voices that I heard weren't even here. They were most likely syndicated in. There was often times where the talent that was in Boston wasn't really kind of looked at. So even now, there's still maybe two, and I think that I might be giving an extra point for black women or women of color that are, specifically black women that are in major radio stations in Boston. It's just kind of not a thing still. So when you're looking at who to talk to or wish I had known, I wish I had someone to at least guide me in the direction to go. I feel like I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. Like Tracy said from the first panel, like Google and YouTube University were my best friends, like how to start a radio station, you know, like things like that. And doing my own market research, making sure that I was speaking in facts, and that I had data and statistics to prove it. So there was, when it comes to just kind of starting out and what I wish that I had, I just wish that I had more support and more people that were there, not after I launched, but before that I did launch.
And I mean, it's really special that you and I are here right now, because we're black women in radio. And so I encourage anyone who's here, who's watching, and as well as with Tiana being a reporter at the Globe, you know, if you have those questions, reach out. Like, we're here, we're available. I mean, I'm like, oh, I'm putting y'all out on the spot, right? But I mean, that's the solidarity that we're talking about, and sort of having that mentorship available to people. We have a question from an audience member at the BPL. Y'all are on it tonight. I'm so proud, so happy for our BPL audience. This person is asking, what supports are available for women getting support for their mental health? And Tiana, if you want to pick up that one, you're welcome to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At least like for me, like I like see a Black woman therapist. I've been seeing her for 2 years, and she has like changed my life. And the way that I found her was through the therapy for Black girls. I know it's a national one, and they also have like people that are like for every state. And I know that there was also one for Pure Spark that Naisha did for like the only one for Massachusetts for that. But I think that also I know that like a lot of like mental health resources, whether it's like a licensed therapist, a lot of those like aren't accessible, or a lot of like women, especially Black women who are in that like field, they are kind of a lot of them might be out of network or inaccessible because a lot of the like burdens that come from some of those providers, it disproportionately affects them, so they might be doing their own things. But there's like also like other places like holistic ways of healing, or also like I know there's like groups that go out, I can't think of a moment because I'm a little nervous, but I know that there's some groups that do like nature walks. But I would definitely like start with therapy for Black girls or Pure Spark if you are in Massachusetts. Like there are, or even just like asking other people. I think that I'm grateful to be in a generation where we are a little bit more willing to talk about mental health. I know like for my parents, sometimes they would say pray it away, but I don't blame that at all. I think that's just like their product of the time. But even asking around, but I think starting with those two platforms would be great.
And just to jump in if I can, there is InnoPsych 2 with Dr. Charmaine Jackson. She started another directory for mental health and Black women, well, BIPOC women. And then there's also Celeste the Therapist. She has a podcast that people can listen to. She does relationships on Friday. So even if you can't necessarily get to those people, there are different platforms that you can kind of join to make sure that you're at least getting some type of therapy, some type of help, some type of support out there, even if it's in the form of, a local podcast that you can relate to.
And Rosa, are there company practices that stick out to you for people who are really making this a priority?
Yeah, specifically at Northeastern, we have resources through, of course, the EAP programs and whatnot. But I think, it's important for you to, again, because you have a network and because you have, you have found sort of your community of folks, that you have these conversations with people who love and care for you, because they will steer you in the right direction. I know that it's, sort of a stigma at least in my community, to sort of say, I need these services, and I need to figure out, my family would be like, oh, you'll be fine, you're good, you're good. Yeah, let me tell you what I've lived through, right? Yeah. And so I think having those conversations, being honest with yourself, being honest with people around you, and seeking help from people who love and care for you, I think that's a very good first step.
So we are winding down time here, but I do want to ask each of you, or at least however many of you we can get to in the time we have left, who are the women role models of today? These can be people you know and talk to on a regular basis, people who are role models in your head. Maria, I'll start with you.
I mean, my mom, she was a refugee from Vietnam, so she came here with nothing. And she's not a CEO, she's not a president of anywhere, but she instilled values and grit in me to get me where I needed to go. And she wasn't necessarily the person that I could model, how to get an interview from, or how to, rise to the top and, and break the glass ceiling. But she instilled in me the morals that I needed to get by. She instilled in me how to be successful in life so that you don't get burnt out. And, just how to be a happy person. And then, that just kind of flourishes everywhere in life.
Yeah, she sounds incredible.
She is amazing.
And Tiana, what about you?
I would say my mom as well. I feel like my mom would beat me if I didn't say that. I'm kidding. But like my mom, definitely, my grannies, my coffee granny and my granny is still living, my aunties, and then people like Janae Osterheld or Megan Irons, and then like women like Ida B. Wells or Nicole Hannah-Jones. So many women. I think that there's just so many people like moving with me, or that whether here like physically or spiritually, that just keep me going every day.
And Danielle, I'm going to give you another question, just asking what advice you would give to the next generation as a role model yourself.
Just keep swimming. From the good old prophet Dory. I use that all the time, and just kind of putting a spin on it to make it a little bit more realistic to what that means. If you think about going out into the ocean and you're swimming and you're swimming and you're swimming, and you stop swimming, what's going to happen? You're going to drown. So you really kind of have to muster up that wit and that strength to keep on going. So I would tell them that in the beginning, it's hard, and a lot of times entrepreneurship is very much glamorized, and it looks like a fun thing to do, and you're flexible. You can do all the things, and you're your own boss. But when you are your own boss, that's when I feel like it gets the heaviest, because there's nobody else to fall back on. So you really kind of have to keep on kicking your arms and your feet to stay afloat and just keep on making it. And when you're younger, you have so much time to really figure it out, really, get all those no's that you can get, start building that tough interior so that when you are a good, nice, big age, you're like, I've done all of that, I've gotten the no's, now I'm working my way up. And then just be prepared for anything that comes after you. It's gonna be scary, you do it scared, and you really just keep swimming.
And Rosa, I'll give you the last word with that same question.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been really to know who I am and who I'm not, and to truly find a sense of value in who I am, without many years of trying to prove myself to people that did not value nor see me at that stage. And then I would say to myself and my younger self, and to folks out there and women out there, is that I have this story where I wanted to go to this high school that my sister was attending, and I had a terrible interview. It was an independent school, and there was this white man who was judging me on the answers of my questions. And I was stuck in that room for so many years because everything that I did was through the lens of judgment, of not being enough. And so I would say, get out of the room.
Yes.
Get out of the room, take up the space, even scared. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Oh my goodness, the great prophet Dory. Well, oh my goodness, this has been absolutely wonderful. I want to say a huge thank you to all of our panelists here and all of the ones we had earlier for sharing their wisdom and their personal experiences as leaders and women of color. I also want to thank our partners at the NAACP Boston branch and the Boston Globe. We thank you for joining us here at the Boston Public Library as well as at home, and we promise to get to every question online and in person as best we can. And we also want to invite you to join us for our next State of Race event, which is coming up on April 13, where we will talk about environmental justice. Who among us are at greatest risk and what can we do about it? I'm Paris Alston, and on behalf of all of us at the State of Race, thank you so much for joining us and have a great evening.
America, where our babies are having babies, locked up and mistreated, babies taking care of babies. Look in the mirror, we did this to us. Our boys are slowly fading. We're home of liberty, but look what we created. How could the judge down from going against the grain? We do nothing but.
Hi everyone, I'm Elijah Farron from GBH's local marketing department. We're glad you can join us during tonight's discussion. Important programs like the State of Race are made possible by GBH members, people like you who support GBH and World Channel's commitment to respond to, represent, and include the diversity of our community in the work that we create and how we do that work as well. Your support helps World Channel to continue to showcase multicultural filmmakers and storytellers who are reporting from the hearts of their communities. Help us raise visibility and further conversations around the issues racial and ethnic communities face, like tonight's The State of Race discussion. Tonight, if you're able to give $5 a month as a sustaining member, that's only $60 a year. We'll then send you this GBH Gray logo shirt just to show our appreciation. Tonight, there are 3 ways to give. Visit wgbh.org/support events, text GBH to 800-204-3811 using keyword GBH to donate, or you can scan the QR code here to open the donation form on your screen of your smartphone. There will never be a better time to give. Donate to GBH today because every dollar counts. By supporting GBH today, you are letting us know what matters to you. Out of all the news and information sources available, you turn to GBH. That's why we're turning to you to ask for your support. Your support is vital to the GBH mission of offering insightful, objective, and necessary information to serve our audiences. Please consider becoming a member today. And if you're already a GBH member, thank you. Thanks again for joining us this evening, and have a good night.